I've been fortunate enough to play quite a few live electronic music gigs over the past couple years, so today I want to give you some lessons I've learned from doing that. The first thing is to keep the audience in mind when building up a set. I try to think about what I like as an audience member at an electronic music event, and especially if it's a dance music event, I want to avoid lulls and downtime. Like, you want a little bit, you want to give audiences' ears a break, but you don't want them just to be standing around listless. Or worse, you don't want to start to get them dancing and get them excited and then immediately kill that momentum. I also try to build in some peaks and valleys and moments that you can grab onto and variation, because I have noticed, especially at dance music events, you can end up with a lot of sameness and it can start to feel like a slog and your ears start to just kind of glaze over. At the same time though, while you're keeping the audience in mind, you never quite know what will and won't hit. I've had gigs where I've started in a basically completely empty room, and then by the middle or end of my set, the room is completely full. I've had sets where I thought I was bombing, and then some people came up to me afterwards and told me it was their favorite thing they'd ever heard me make. And then I've also had stuff that I really thought was going to hit, and then it was just kind of unremarkable. Along with that, practice a lot. I've seen some train wrecks on stage, and it's always painful for everyone involved. I've committed a couple of train wrecks myself, and that will happen. But the more practiced you are, two things happen. First of all, you can deal with being nervous by just retreating into the well-worn neural pathways and letting muscle memory do its thing and just calmly moving through a set, even if there's a lot of people staring at you and you're nervous. That's been insanely helpful for me. The other thing about practicing a lot is that if I do end up playing to an empty room, that's no different from me practicing alone in my room. I'm used to playing electronic music alone and getting excited about doing so anyway, so I can also do it with an audience that is smaller than I would have hoped for. If you do mess up in front of an audience, the advice I got from someone close to me is don't make a face. If you don't make a face, it might not be obvious. And I'm often tempted to kind of acknowledge that I made a mistake and play it off by making a face and be like, oh, that was kind of silly. But if you just don't acknowledge it, people might not even notice. And finally, have contingency plans. If you are almost done with your time slot and the next DJ hasn't even entered the room yet, have some backup material that you can kind of move into. That's saved my ass a couple of times. Have cables. There was a period during my first few gigs that after every single gig, I bought a new cable. So I've got 1/4 inch, I've got XLR, I've got 1/4 inch to XLR, which are my most used cables. I've got RCA to 1/4 inch. I've got just kind of a regular 3.5 millimeter aux cable in case I need to run into a smaller input on a DJ mixer because nothing else is working. And all of that just lives in my dedicated gig backpack. So I always have all the cables I could possibly need whenever I am going out the door to go to a gig.